Good afternoon. Just want to thank Louise and the team for having me here again another year. So my talk is on Mami Wata in the Americas, so it fits really nicely after Sabine's talk. So, torn from their African homelands, forced to endure a brutal journey towards the Americas across the Atlantic waters, enslaved Africans not only brought Africa with them, but they sought to recreate this Africa and incorporate it within their new circumstances. Memories of Africa were transmitted through intergenerational practices, such as songs, dances, and religious practices. Many of these practices they were and still are carried out at water landscapes. So let's take this 19th century account by a colonial officer called Hesketh Bell in the southern Caribbean island of Grenada. He observes elderly women on a procession to the Granatang Lake, which is this massive crater lake in Grenada, around 40 years after slavery was abolished in the island. He observes elderly women wearing red and white, and it really reminded me of Sabine's film that we watched earlier, carrying flags of the same color. He says, old women of the procession would commence an endless prayer addressed to Mama Jo. Now, Mama Jo is French Creole for Mama Wata, Mami Wata, Mother of Water. This was accompanied by the sacrifice of a black goat and some white fowls. Once a mermaid or siren was considered satisfied, the ceremony would conclude by an African dance to the sound of a tom-tom or drum, lasting day and night. When this would finished, they can be seen the next Sunday morning hurrying to their church, dressed out in their best clothes. I think what we have here is the importance of Mami Wata to Grenadians in the 19th century, the sacrifice at the lake, but also church attendance, importance of going to church. So again, parallel practices. You retain your African beliefs, but you also attend church. Anyway, such stories of mermaids and Mami Wata in the Americas are widespread. Now, why water landscapes? Water is ubiquitous, it's everywhere. And the Pacific site in the Americas could remind Africans displaced from their homelands of a lake or a river or a spring in their African homelands. It could also then remind them about a set of practices carried out near water landscapes in Africa. In that way, a lake could be mnemonic, enabling songs, dances, and spirits to be remembered, such as Mami Wata. So these could survive over generations and across time and space. So in Grenada, they called her Mama Jo. In Cuba, they called her Yemanja, where it's been identified with a Yoruba deity. In Dominica and Trinidad, Mama Glow, and in Haiti, La Serene. In Jamaica, River Mama, and in Surinam, Water Mama. So these female deities were created from an array of African religious and cultural traditions in Africa, and they traveled to the Americas. It is thus syncretic. It carries multiple African origins known as Mami Wata. Mami Wata has thus emerged as a transnational symbol of religion, resistance, and remembrance across the Black Atlantic. Well, before I mention Pacific examples of Mami Wata in Haiti, Surinam, the US, I would like to mention the importance of Igbo women in the Americas. Now, historians of the slave trade have noted that a higher proportion of Africans sent through the Bight of Biafra were women. For instance, enslaved Africans from the Bight of Biafra in the mid-17th century, 72% of the captives were women. This is a really high number, and it sets the Bight of Biafra out apart from any other African region. It wasn't always 72%, sometimes it could be 60%, obviously change over time. Why is this the case? There are several reasons that historians have put forward. The fact that war will generate more women captives and also young people. Also, historians have noted the role of men in agriculture their very important role. For example, yam cultivated among the Igbo and Ibibio of Biafra was regarded as the king of crops and cultivated exclusively by men. Men had an important role in this staple crop, and thus it's seen that women were less likely to be retained and so were more vulnerable to capture and sale. Anyhow, resultantly, women are very, very visible in colonial documentation. For example, 1826, a registry of enslaved Africans on a plantation, there's a woman called Mary Igbo. And from what I understand, this is the only kind of ethnic identifiable term on this register. There were others, but I found Igbo actually more times. I've also found Congo, but Igbo seems to be quite prominent. Or in 1790, an advert for enslaved women at the marketplace, 60 prime Igbo women. I found this in a newspaper. And again, the role of Igbo women in resistance as runaways, fleeing from the harshness of plantation slavery. So women are important in resistance, Igbo women. Here you have a woman named Lucinda, speaks fluent French, but it's identified her as of the Igbo nation. So, and then also lastly, there's a dance called Nation Dance in Grenada. It's multi-ethnic, different groups of people are celebrated. But this is an Igbo song in Grenada, and women are very important in the celebration of these different nations. But I say this to say, this shows the dominance and visibility of Igbo women in the Americas. And as Sabine Gel-Banson's talk has demonstrated and documentary, the late goddess was important in female spirituality. She ruled over the crossroads of life, death, and rebirth. Here, as elsewhere in African societies, water deities are a source of strength and empowerment, and it allows women to become healers, powerful priestesses, and important figures in male-dominated environments. So we might wonder on the contribution of women's idea of Mami Wata to the Americas, because they are numerically and culturally dominant. There are two interesting books about Mami Wata, both edited by Henry John Jewell, Sacred Waters and Mami Wata. And this is where I get the following examples from. So let's talk about Haiti. A striking example of Mami Wata can be seen within Voodoo, which is a belief system which has strong historic connections with the Fon people of Dahomey, present-day Benin. Dwellers of the sea, fish, whales, and snakes, which we were talking about earlier, join mermaids to symbolize the Lua. Those are spirits in the Haitian Voodoo. Here's a depiction of Mami Wata in a flag. She can be black, she can be white, or in this case, part black and part white, just looking at the hair. And this is a mural of La Serene, Mami Wata, on a wall of a Voodoo temple. Again, we can see the importance of a snake, which is wrapped around the tree on the far right. It's interesting to note that La Serene is also known as Azili, who is thought to be named after a lake in Benin called Lake Azili. Here we can note the way in which memory of a particular water site in Benin has been transformed into a female deity in Haiti. There's also a Catholic origin of Azili, which has been suggested. Ursulae could be an adaptation of Saint Ursula, a teaching and nursing order of Catholic nuns. So we can see this as an example in the way in which Mami Wata represents memories of the homeland in the case of the lake in Benin, but also as Mami Wata being flexible, as Sabine Bell-Johnson was talking about, it being flexible, Mami Wata absorbs something new, and in this case, Roman Catholicism, perhaps, just in the origin of the name Azili. I like this image of La Serene in Haiti. Here, sister sirens preside over the voodoo marriage of La Serene, dressed in white, with Ugon, the deity of iron and war, or Ogu, as it is pronounced in Haiti, who is dressed in red and blue. Here, Ugun symbolizes to Saint L'Ouverture, the leader of the Haitian Revolution, in the late 18th century, which resulted in the first black-led republic and independent nation in the Caribbean, a major event. So here you can see the relationship between Mami Wata and resistance, and also two very important symbols of Haitian resistance and independence, Mami Wata and To Saint Le Overture. The second example is Suriname. Here, Mami Wata is worshipped as Watra Mama. Watra Mama has involved a mixture of people from different ethnic backgrounds. It was banned during slavery because of its dangerous effects. The dances of Watra Mama was banned, as it was thought enslaved people could use this as a space and a tool to rebel against slave owners. Watra Mama in Suriname is transcultural. She was known by different groups of Africans under different names. The Akan people called her Mama Bosu. Those from present-day Benin called her Mama Tobosi. And interesting enough, just speaking about the transcultural nature, even though Mama Wata was believed to be brought from West Africa, when Mama Wata speaks through a person who is possessed by her, she speaks a Central African language. So the combination of different African cultural groups. It's interesting to know, I don't have any specific pictures of Mami Wata in Suriname, but sometimes she's portrayed as a Merry Indian, so native to Suriname. Sometimes she's portrayed more of the European version of Mami Wata. But to the Maroons of Suriname, these were people that fled the plantations, descendants of people that fled the plantations and set up their own communities in Suriname. A more African version is portrayed of her. Thus, Mami Wata in Suriname demonstrates the importance of resistance, of Mami Wata to resistance, and also the importance of Mami Wata to a diverse set of people. The final example I will talk about is we move north to the US, which is our final example. So Mama Zogby is pictured here. In the US, a Mami Wata's Healers Society has been formed. Mami Zogby talks about the importance of Mami Wata. Its priesthood was a moral and political power in Africa. They were sought out by kings, leaders, and clerics, to name a few. Now, here she is pictured in a Mami Wata shrine in Georgia. It's very interesting to note the combination of various paraphernalia, and what's standing out is the Hindu deities. So again, demonstrating the flexibility of Mami Wata. Mama Zogby has struggled to be recognized as a priestess in America because of the stigmatization of African beliefs. In fact, Mami Wata's Healer Society was originally founded to petition the US Library of Congress to reclassify African traditional religions from occult and satanic. They have made some progress, resulting in the Library of Congress classifying such groups as religious movements rather than cults. Mami Zogby's story demonstrates the struggles of followers of Mami Wata in the Americas. Very briefly, she draws inspiration from a great-great-grandfather who was killed because of his religious practices in America, in Louisiana. She talks about battling with spirits in America, and that if she was treated conventionally in the US, they would have labeled her as psychotic or schizophrenic. So in order to sort herself out, she travels to Togo and Benin, and she undergoes several years of training and initiation there. And I've got a picture with some other ladies in Benin. And finally, Mama Wata is on the internet, which is fantastic. And the books that I refer to does talk about this, talks about Mami Wata in virtual waters. And some of the information you can find here about Mami Zogby and her life. So I'm just going to conclude now. In Haiti, Suriname, the US, and many other places in Americas, Mami Wata is celebrated, revered. Through Mami Wata, enslaved Africans were able to retain elements of their cultural beliefs. and use these beliefs to survive in the new world. Mami Wata, as we have seen, is particularly important for women. Women were central to sacrifices to Mami Wata, allowing them to become powerful spiritual leaders and solving their requests concerning fertility, well-being, and success. And also, if we consider the number of Igbo women who would have brought with them to the Americas various forms of Mami Wata, it is clear that Igbo women may have contributed significantly to the religious celebration of Mami Wata. Thank you.